pastors, ministry leaders, and future ministers. I'm Sehi, and this is Crystal, and we're so excited you're joining us today.
Our podcast is designed to offer tangible leadership competencies that you can apply directly to your ministry context.
That's right. So today in our Grow Together segment, we're going to talk about leading men and leading with men. You know how typically we end our podcast with answering a question, but today we're going to start with it and then answer that question throughout the whole episode. So this is for you. How do I honor and work with the majority male staff?
It's a good one.
That is a very good one. So let's unpack that a little bit. So Crystal, you wear multiple ministry leadership hats that I stopped counting. I just kind of lost counting.
I don't want you to get tired.
All right. But it's a wonderful opportunity and platform,
really
and it's perfect for you to speak into this. So tell us about your roles and what do you like most about leading with men or leading men?
Yes. Well, it's true. I work on many ministry contexts with both men and women.
Yeah.
And I think for me, even as the director of the network of women ministers, I love it when we collect it as women. But our goal is always to work co-ed.
Yes.
Our goal is to work in ministry with our brothers and diverse backgrounds. And so we even my women's teams, I think it's to train together, but to work co-ed.
Yes.
And so I'd say probably my favorite part is the team that I actually lead, in which I have, a 3 men and 2 women, and so we're leading together, and the respect that they give me, using those appropriate titles. They'll say, this is my boss, Crystal Martin, this is our director, Crystal Martin, and just as my colleagues have begun to use even that language, it helps that authority and those insecurities that I have start dissipating. I walk through the halls at Central Assembly and all age demographics. Hi, Pastor Crystal, it's so good to see you. And I think just using those titles that help denote who we are, it starts alleviating those insecurities. So I have really loved that. I've also loved the brotherhood. We talked about that in another episode, but I only have a sister. And so as I'm leading teams, I feel like we create this brotherhood and sisterhood that I really appreciate and love. So
one of the major differences that I see between leading men and leading with men is that when you're leading men, or just not just men, but mixed group co-ed, you set the tone.
Yes.
Right? You create the culture, you create the tone, and you're the leader.
That actually makes it easier for me. When I'm leading, I set the tone, and I think a man that's uncomfortable with that probably isn't going to be on your team.
That's true.
So they're on the team because they believe in you as a leader, and then you set the tone of leadership, and that is my favorite way. And like I said, I've worked with such respectful men that it's been a positive. Now, when I work on a team where I'm the only woman that comes in on a team, and I have to learn and try to contextualize, I find that a little more difficult. I try to learn the tenor of the table, but often statistics say you need at least 20% female to make a difference on an all-male team. So if I'm 1 out of 9, wow, it's hard to really kind of make a difference on that team.
But you're there.
But I'm there and I'm learning, and I work to contextualize, and in the end, if they want me on the team, I have to be myself. And so
that biggest difference, when you're leading men, setting the tone is probably that DNA. When you're leading with men, figuring out that tone is probably your major task. And then just speaking into that and going along with the culture and the climate of that group.
Definitely.
Yes, because you don't want to be like, okay, everybody listen to me, right? So for me, personally, overcoming insecurity was difficult, both in leading men and leading with men, because I do that also as a lead pastor, and also as a professor, teaching students that are both men and women. There's a sense of insecurity, although I have this credential to be able to teach, will they even listen to me? That kind of thing. But I also, when I sit in the board meetings in this pastor's meeting, and that I am the only woman, and I feel this divine responsibility. I think that's the best word.
We feel that as women.
to
represent women.
To represent a woman. Also, here's a side, to disprove this token woman syndrome.
Yes.
And it's looking back, it's all because of me imposing that on myself. Nobody imposed that token woman image on me, but I was having to deal with that issue on my own, and I have felt this need to speak up. And so as people are talking, and in my mind I'm going, okay, when is a good opportunity for me to jump in and prove that I can bring something good content into this conversation? But I was doing that all along to myself, and I was exhausting myself when I just needed to, like you said, be myself and contribute whenever you needed to contribute, or be quiet and listen whenever you needed to, you know? And so that was one thing. But here's interesting thing. When I'm leading a group of people in the community outside the church context or Christian context, I find it more comfortable. I don't understand truly why, maybe because there's no measuring sticks or whatnot. But here's also some other thing, other aspect of that is that I feel this divine responsibility to represent Christ well. Because they will never meet a female Christian leader, and they will have to follow that leadership. So I feel like, I need to do this right.
I think we care a lot too, because we really want to pave the way for the next generation of women well. And so because of that, we can put too much pressure on ourselves to be too perfect or speak at the right time. And so sometimes we really have to confess that and dig it out of our lives, because at the end we got to just bring ourselves.
And this is one thing that I really admire from our male colleagues, male ministers, is that they're very, very comfortable in their own skin. And they just speak with their authority, and just really accept who they are. But like you said, for us female, we question it, even going all the way back to our calling piece. Are we really called God? Are you sure about this, right?
We have to overcome insecurities.
Absolutely, that's right.
One of the biggest insecurities I've had to really overcome is I tend to lead as a prophetic leader. So I'm definitely, had a vision last night. God spoke to me, let's go do this, which is very welcome in an altar. But I find myself in rooms of all men leadership teams that it can almost be thought of as I'm just playing the God card, or maybe that I'm not using leadership techniques. And so trying to balance that, I think sometimes I get worried that I'm labeled as like the crazy spiritual woman that's
There's that lady again.
that's gonna like bring the flags into the leadership room. And I think I'm worried that I'm gonna they're gonna think I'm gonna start doing something crazy, that I find myself reining that side of me in to try to fit in to a more orderly system. And so that's something I really have had to learn how to balance and to really ask the Lord to help me keep that prophetic edge and lead from that, hey, this is how I was trained. You listen to what God says and do what he says. And so sometimes at a leadership table that feels uncomfortable, and I don't know how to integrate it.
Right. But isn't it wonderful that you can bring that aspect to the room, a room full of male colleagues, because they may need the prophetic gift, and they bring other strengths. So if we are not
we
leading
love each
men,
other, then we can respect that in each other.
If we're not leading men or leading with men, if there's no men in your leadership table, sisters, you're missing out. So go find these equipped and called men who will champion each other and who are confident and comfortable in their own skin and calling too. And we're just going to sharpen each other, and that's the best way to do it. So here's some pointers that we thought from our own insecurities or overcoming insecurities that we thought will give you some pointers. First of all, making discipleship a priority when leading men or leading with men. Now, do not make, I'm going to lead men a priority. That shouldn't be our focus. Making disciples of all nations, Acts 1:8, right? Make disciples of a nation, which includes both men and women. So I will say, make discipleship a priority. That should be our ultimate task, divine opportunity to live out God's passion and calling.
And whether we're leading a team or being led by another team leader, we're all discipling each other. It really is a process we're doing together. So the second thing we could say is think teamwork. When leading with men, our harvest is plentiful and our labors are few. And so we need all of us. And I really appreciate leaders who lead with a teamwork mentality. We're all in this together. We're all doing this together. We think teamwork, I think it makes it easier when we're leading men and women together.
And we say this because oftentimes just automatically we assume, okay, when there's an opposite gender in the room, okay, there's a stereotypes, and therefore you're my enemy. You're not going to listen to me. You know, and that mindset we just have to overcome, and actually inviting that differences, because we talked about that diversity in our other episode, diversity in our gender, in our cultural views, in our experiences. It's so rich. Why wouldn't you want that, right? In your boardroom, in your meeting, in your team leading, but doing it as a team. Also doing it as a team, it's just so edifying. We model that for the next generation, how to do this properly. It's not just about us being sitting at the table, right? And it's more than that. We have to build this team of like-minded people that are championing each other, because the next generation, guess who they're going to follow? You.
That's right.
The next one is speak from your position of authority, not insecurity. I think it's especially more important for women who do question time after time about our position as minister and our calling as ministers, right? It's difficult to overcome. We second guess ourselves all the time.
We do second guess ourselves. And I'm really thankful for our good friend and mentor, Dr. Beth Grant.
Yes.
She gives the advice to actually, instead of just reading the Word of God, stand up and proclaim it. And actually step in and step out and actually practice growing your spiritual authority in your quiet time. So when you get to the table, your voice is already, there's already that practice from what God is doing, like in my belly, is coming out in my voice in that place of authority. And so we can actually practice that. Just walk around your house. Sometimes I say preach to your plants, but begin to hone that authority in you, so that when you speak, it's concise, there's authority there, and we're not speaking out of insecurity.
Right.
My husband often will say, don't erode your credibility by speaking through insecurity. When somebody comes to a mic and says a microphone and says like, oh, I've just never spoken before. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak. I don't deserve it. Like the person on the front row is thinking, well, maybe you don't deserve it. Like I'm giving you 30 minutes to listen to you. So don't erode your credibility by verbalizing insecurity. Verbalize authority, so the person on the second row saying like, yeah, this person has something to say, and I'm going to try to plug with them. So women probably do that more than I see men do. We erode our credibility.
Exactly. That is so good. And that's different from having a big head, you know, like, yep, I earned this place, I have my credentials, you know, I have my education, I have my experience. No, that's different from that, right? Wow, that's so powerful. It's very quotable, tweetable. Go ahead, everybody.
Our fourth thing is we want to leverage our token woman position.
Do it. Use it
there
for God's glory.
There are times Sehi and I both find ourselves there because they wanted a woman at the table.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for inviting us, because we know that table appreciated diversity, and it actually was loving to us. And Sehi and I both bring our best.
Yes,
we're educated women. We are ready for the task. We're read up. We're ready. But we also believe that we're paving the way for the next generation. And so we don't sit there sadly like, oh, token woman. I'm like, wow, I'm a woman at this table. Somebody cares enough to make sure that a woman is there.
And even if you are a token woman, don't sit there and like, oh, I know I'm here just because I'm a woman. You know, that mentality, that just shuts every opportunity for the next person, right? So when you're sitting there, whether you're a token woman or not, poster child or not, be there, engage, fully be present, and exercise your gifts through the anointing of the Holy Spirit.
And bring you.
Be present.
Bring you to the table, because they need you.
Exactly. Use that, leverage it. That is so good. Well, you know what? When we're talking about leading men and leading with men, that's one aspect. But there's another aspect that could go deeper, which is leading with your husband. Co-leading. We had a whole different episode on this, but what is it like, you know, because you guys both, Scott and you, lead at the high leadership capacity. what does it sound like and look like when you're leading with men who was your husband?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, for us, the best analogy I can give is a country western duet. Okay, so when we started, my husband had quite a bit more experience than I did in ministry, so I was his backup singer. I'm a great alto. So
good.
I just stood back and sang my alto and grew my voice. And then it became kind of noticeable to him and others that we were starting to grow as an act together, and we really, instead of me being his backup singer, we really became a duet and a co-leaders. But as we began to grow our influence base, we recognized that there were times we needed to stand on separate stages. So although we're working together, we're on different stages and we're using different voices. And it's actually helped us expand our influence base when we have stood on different stages and yet leading together in the sense that we're on mission together. And so it's been a positive experience. I think just knowing which stage you're on and the season you're in, being okay with it. There's might be time your husband's your backup singer. There might be time you're his backup singer. And so if you just own the season you're in and do it beautifully, we can work well with our spouses.
And the point is you're making the music together.
Yeah,
so that's good. Yes, keep on doing that. Keep on writing that beautiful song. Yeah. And here's a final thought when it comes to leading men and leading with men. And it goes both ways. If you are in the position of authority, wanting to champion someone after you, stepping down is a great way to lead someone. So if you're a woman in the position of authority, and if you want to lead somebody who is male, maybe it's an opportunity for you to step down so someone else can step up and step in. And so just acknowledging that season of ministry, right? And whether you're a man or woman, and just creating that space for someone to thrive in their season of growth and ministry.
That's beautiful.
Let's do that together. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I love our conversation. I can't wait for our next time and talk about something that is so passionate and powerful for you and for us. But follow us on Facebook and Instagram at AG Women Ministers. And until every woman fulfills her ministerial calling, just remember, we're in this together.